Welcome in, everybody. This is a audiobook reading of New World Witchery, a Corey Thomas Hutchinson book. Anyways, this is actually my first audiobook. I know it's probably going to come to a surprise to most people. But hey, you know what's even going to come more of a surprise? This is going to be the first book that I've ever read. Well, if you count like Dr. Seuss, yeah, I've read some books, but like I never read like a real book, you know, because every time in like high school I'd just BS it and somehow pass. But that's not what's happening today. Today we'll be reading that book that I just told you about. We're gonna go chapter by chapter because I don't know how long it's gonna take me to read one chapter, and I might mispronunciate some words in the book, so forgive me. But thank you for joining on the adventure. Now, before I begin with chapter 1, I just want everybody to know this week's episode is sponsored by alternative people. They're not emos. Which, if you look at an alternative person, you might think, yo, that's an email. No, emo. They're not, okay? They're alternative. They're different. Try to ask people first before you consider them just emo. Or like Gene Simmons lookalikes. It's going to save you a lot of time. Oh, also another sponsor is going to be White Claw Surge, because here's the thing. You can't read an audiobook and be classy without some sort of alcohol. Some people do wine. Me, no. I'm going to do some White Claw Surge. Here's the deal. It's 8%, which means you drink one, it's like drinking two. I already had 3. And I just cracked open number 4, because there's no way I'm not going to be drinking while reading to you fancy folks. All right. Anyways. Also, my lighting is terrible, so I don't even know how well I'm going to be able to read this. Let's get into it, though, because I know everyone's curious about New World Witchery by Corey Thomas Hutchinson. Chapter 1, The Crossroads, an introduction guide to this book. Now, here's the thing. Don't get Crossroads mixed up with Cody Rhodes' Crossroads. I think that's his move.
He's going to try. That's a crossroad.
That's WWE. This is witchcraft, guys. Big difference. Anyways, we're on page 1. It is probably useless to attempt to convince you that the reader, a witch, is something you do not already understand. Whatever imagine pops into your head when that world passes by in conversation. Whether whispered revertedly or barked in anger, that will definitely be an image for you. Perhaps your image has shifted, but most likely the shifted has already occurred gradually over time. And there is still a very good chance someone showed you a picture of Margaret Hamilton, no idea who that is, from The Wizard of Oz. I was in that play, guys. I was a munchkin. I was one of the uncles, like the main one, not the one who's like a big character, but it was pretty cool. Hated being a munchkin, because I had to wear a green frickin' suit. Oh man, like a green sailor suit. It looked so goofy. It was awful. You would at least get a flicker of the word witch in your brain. Similarly, a burning pot emitting fumes is likely to conjure, forgiven for the pun, the word witch to mind. For many, a witch is also an ordinary older woman who lives alone in a house that is a bit overgrown, or maybe a word that people you use to talk about spiteful ghosts that linger in the shadows. Those suffering from hag riding syndrome, many are perceived a witch as a presence heavy and ominous that holds them down to the bed at night. I don't know about you guys, but like when I think of a witch, I'm thinking of like Feel the Fire from Overkill when they're like she burns at the stake like a witch.
Fire! Fire! Feel the fire! She burns at the stake like a witch! Gotta slash her slit her throat! There's nothing I despise more than a bitch!
Very good song. Very good band. Thrash metal. In a fairy tale popular culture and literature, we conceive of witches everywhere and give them numerous forms in our everyday lives. We may not think much about witches, or we might think about them as a great deal in a romantic, symbolic way. Who thinks of a witch being romantic? I think of like that one from Snow White who's got the wrinkly, weird old nose and stuff. Like, I never thought of a witch like, yo, that's hot. No way. Shoot, what the heck was that? In fairy tales, popular culture, we all know, though, what a witch is, don't we? Apparently not. Yet, for all the images, we can summon. Turning page. Take this little words. When we hear the word witch, we must also admit that it is one of our fits. They all do, which hints how hard it is to capture a witch in one place and hold her still on a film on one's cellar, the good wine kept. See, I told you if you're reading a book you need wine. Why then can we instantly understand the word witch when it is spoken? The simple reason is that witches are creatures of a story. And we all love a good story. Those can be fairy tales, but they can also be true. Stories about our neighbors, our friends, women we have known and loved, or women we have feared and reviled. Kind of like Scarlet. No, not Scarlet. That one in Arizona. You know what I'm talking about? The witch trials? I don't know. Witches excite our collective imagination. A point that will be even more cogent when we consider how creative the magic of witchery can be. We understand witches, even if we all conceive them to be a little bit different. Through all the trappings and trivia tinsel that we use to cobble together something resembling resembling a witch. It's so hard to read. When we make our pictures and films and sculptures, we understand the underlying characteristics of the witch. She has magic, and she uses it. Kind of like The Gathering, so she'd be playing those card games, you know what I'm saying? I have always been a little bit obsessed with witches. More specifically, I have always been a little bit obsessed with what witches do. Magic. The Gathering. For me, defining characteristics of a witch is that they cast spells, they bottle potions, they transform those who are wrong, or offend them into various denizens of a swamp and field. When I was in elementary school, I spent an inordinate? I don't know, dude, these words are big. Amount of time scouring our small town school library for anything inordinate sort of sorcery I had seen in films and television shows, but very quickly I found there were people who use magic not for zapping lightning bolts from their fingers, that'd be freaking cool, but for the ever so slightly nudging fate in their favor. Sometimes that nudge wound up causing problems for other people. And sometimes it was simply a twist of luck for the better. What I noticed with many of the spells I found was that they would be gathered alongside things like nursery rhymes, fairy tales, and descriptions of holidays and festivals from around the world. The magic was part of something called folklore. And reader, I was hooked. That's the book, not me, that said I was hooked. I'm just starting. Anyways, coming to the crossroads, finding New World of Witchery. It was in bold, but remember guys, that's not Cody Rhodes. They're talking about witch stuff. The combination of folklore and magic has been passion of my favorite focus for nearly 2.5 decades. I began collecting spells and tidbits of folk magic index cards in journals and on sticky notes and scrap tucked into my books of folktales. My search for magic led me to pick up spells like magpie. That sounds kind of delicious. Like, I don't know, if I could eat a magic pie, I'd do it. Trying them out, seeing what worked, and putting down what didn't. It led me to a strange section of libraries and odd monsters and shadows in old stories. It led me to try to learn new languages, dozens of them, just to understand some of the spells I found in the original words. I am by no means a polyglot, but I have somewhat of an unhealthy obsession with picking up the phrases of books and languages, learning software, taking classes in half a dozen languages. I hope they can speak Italian, because I got an Italian song that I've been trying to find somebody to read to. Or not read to, show. If anybody speaks Italian, please DM me, because I do have a song to show you, and I'd love to see your opinion.
Una tumultuosa rabbia sentite dentro di te, una voce che rimbomba come un tuono, e vuoi fargliela pagare, non mi dire lascia stare, hai fame e sete solo di pianeta.
Okay, where was I? To be dangerous. When I was trying to ask where the bathroom is in a number of countries, I have pursued advanced degrees, eventually talking a doctorate with a focus on folklore studies, specifically because of my interest in folk magic. With my longtime magical partner, I have hosted a long-running podcast about folk magic in North America, a project that has afforded me the opportunity to interview dozens of magical practitioners and scholars from a wide variety of backgrounds. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like Morrowind or like Elder Scrolls, but in real life. That same project connects me with thousands of listeners, many of whom have also been eager to share their experiences with magic, or to ask questions that prompted me to look more deeply into certain parts of North America folklore and magical work there. I might have otherwise in this regard. I have been incredibly lucky and privileged to pursue the passion. I have also worked very hard to pull these department strands together for myself, others, and to identify what I would call New World Witchery. When this is New World Witchery, I wonder if they're talking about because I I didn't read the book, but I know that there's like an electronic part. I wonder if that's New World stuff, because I was thinking about this, and I told somebody about this, old world magic, right? You put it in objects, spices, blah, 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 right? Well, if we're making technology, there's definitely some sort of witchcraft we can do to conjure something within that. I don't know, maybe some cool demon stuff. No idea. Anyways, why the New World part? Well, one thing I found very early and often in my studies was how closely magic linked to location. There is a strong sense that the turning page. I must have been reading so much, jeez. Place of magic, shapes, forms, and magic. Huge magics of magical lore from Europe have found their way into the print through brilliant, sometimes nefariously brilliant, authors in my collecting days. Before I started the podcast and pursued my degree, I moved overseas to live in Prague, the capital of Cebcasso Republic. In order to teach English while there, I experienced a lot of enchantment. And all it seemed extremely particular to the Slavic people who lived there. Stories about alchemists living in tiny row houses nearby, the palace, a king with a love of the occult, and erratic saints. That sounds sexy. Oh no, that says historic. Historic saints. Never mind. Bodies with magical healing properties, or even clock charting the movement of spheres in the heavens on the public square. a clock still operating today, and which inspired the clock on Cinderella's castle, Disney World. And I think they're talking about the cartoon too. Although, fun fact, those Disney books, Cinderella, a bunch of them are like taken from another person, and they just they're darker stories though, but they took it and made it like a child's version. So, Walt Disney's a thief. Anyways, the enchantment permitted everything, in all the places I walked and wandered seemed touched by Slavic magic. When I returned to the United States, I experienced a brief moment of dejection because I thought that the magic was still over there. I began to look for other sources and studied with the outer court of a Gardenian coven, while also looking into the forms of British traditional witchcraft, such as Robert Kochering, into the other forms of Robert Kocher derived. 1734. Traditions. I began to listen to Trad Crafter and Mage Extraordinaire Peter Patton in his Crooked Path podcast, then devouring his books as well. All of those sources, though, emphasized distinctly British and European roots, even as they focused on connecting with local spirits and magical landscapes around you. The magic still felt like it was coming from somewhere else. It wasn't until I was reading some books of folktale from the southern United States that I noticed something. There was magic here too. Stories like those from Burr Rabbit or Sop Paw, about a group of witches who turn into cats, to Harangu, a weary traveler, all contained little bits of magic, spells or ingredients, or simple rituals. I read a story about a pair of greasy witches in the Smoky Mountains, and immediately noticed parallels with some Irish folktale I had read previously, and realized that in both stories contained information on magical flying ointments in a coded way, but also referred to a distinct flavor of magic depending on where they were told. That got me thinking about something I should have seen so much earlier, but we can't always see what's right in front of us. Can we? Yeah, that sounds like... What was that? I was playing Elder Scrolls Morrowind. It's bringing up some more Elder Scrolls. I know, pretty cool. But I was walking through the forest in this game. All of a sudden, this dude's screaming. And I don't know where he's coming from. And I looked up, and some guy fell from the sky. In the middle of a forest. There's no flying. Anyways, I was curious, so I pickpocketed all of the stuff he had, and then read one of the notes. And it's like, I have found a potion that creates flying. So he drank it. And I'm guessing it wore off. And that's when he fell in front of me. Poor guy. I wonder if this is related at all. Magic is everywhere, which means magic is here. I had been living with magic all along. Not only that, the magic around me was robust, alive, growing, and active. It stretched out across North America in all directions, leading me to encounter magical paths and traditions that I had been bumping into for years, but putting aside because they weren't the same kind of over-there magic I thought I was looking for. I had been treating the journey into folk magic like a road I could walk backwards in time, finding some original source for it. Instead, I found Crossroads, not Cody Roads, a place where a vast variety of folk magic intersected and grew. Those who read much into folklore, that a crossroads is one of the most powerful places for witchcraft and sorcery. It is a place to meet ghosts or devils and work spells that gather strange magical ingredients. I want to meet a devil. I want to meet like a demon too. That'd be so sick. And there's this song by Lordy. It's like something about the devil being his B word. It's pretty good. You should listen to Lordi. Lordi. Great band. They're like Gore, if Gore had talent. Anyways, North America cross cultures, sometimes horrifying and brutal ways, bringing together influences from West Africa, a plethora from native nations, sundry Europe cultures, and numerous places with Pennsylvania, Germany speakers. You know, people in Pennsylvania spoke German, creating healing systems like Witchery, also called Pow Wow. Oh, that's Batman style. Let's go. Pow Wow. Whoosh. Scottish, Irish, and German settlers and Apaches generating folk magic to conjure practices. African and African American enslaved and free people brilliantly crafting methods like root work and hoodoo as a way of coping. Sorry guys, there's like letters and they do like those spaces and I have trouble finding the lines. With or combining oppressive systems around them. The more I looked to the more I saw that what I had before me was something like buried treasure. Only it wasn't even buried. Lucky, I want to be rich. I had grown up with magic. It was in the things I did every day. From picking up a lucky penny to eating black-eyed peas, I think that's a band, and greens on New Year's Day for good luck. It was in the prayers of Saint Anthony I learned, my Catholic mother, as a way to find lost things, or in the ways of my friends dangled a wedding ring over the pregnant woman's belly to guess the sex of her baby. That's stupid. Who's doing that? That's dumb. Babies can't get married, they're too young. I'm never getting married. It was in the stories of crossing water to keep ghosts from following you home, or in the hint blue paint on many porches that kept specters and wasps away. Also Wasp, great band. Missed the concert, I was there. I think I got drugged, so I don't remember it. All of that experience, all of that study leads to me to the text of Hold in Your Hands. The purpose of this book is not to make you an expert in particular magic traditions, or to tell you it's okay to take anything you like from the traditions here. I simply cannot do that. Instead, this book should help you see that everyday magic in their folk communities, which are many and varied, and you likely belong to several without even knowing. And you can seek that magic out for yourself, seeing parallel magics and other traditions to help you understand, identify, and create your own map of folk magical landscapes you already inhabit. If it happens for you, I will consider this book a success. Well, this book was purchased, not by me. Thanks, Des. But, yeah, I'm just borrowing it. And I figured this would be a perfect time to read my first book with all of my audience. So thank you to myself for listening. At the crossroads, my journey began this book. Then also a crossroads in the pages to follow. I laid out a series of points to compromise North America witchcraft based on the practice of folk magic, or, as it term it, New World Witchery. I will explore different aspects of magical practice based on extensive research, including contemporary interviews and literature, to offer an interesting reader outline of what the New World Witchcraft magic practice might be like. This practice-based approach will guide you to subject through specific spells, magical objects, and rituals found in North America, while also giving you the actions of some context. I intend to give a reader a closely guided tour of New World Witchery. And I hope my reader, you, me, anyone listening, will see what I see, a landscape that has always been enchanted and haunted by magic. Alright, I'm back. That was delicious. It's lime flavored. I do like me some lime flavored White Claw Surge, 8%. Getting into next bold word. Ungrimming the Grimmer. How to read this book. Oh man, this is the chapter I should have started with. Or not chapter, but bold letter, because I don't know how to read that well. I have divided this book into somewhat orientationistly into a series of rites, corresponding to the practices and activities of North American folk magic. Each section, with exceptions of initial introduction of final rite, will contain one or more chapters that reveal practice of the New World Witchery specific settings. Whenever it's like settings you can change. Kind of like when you're playing a game, you turn HDR on, you know what I'm saying? You will encounter 19th century magical treasure. Oh, I want some treasure hunting. Hunters and see their practice and relates to the rural farming practice of planting by signs. You will see witches engaged in life or death battles with those who hunt region of the American Southwest. Each of these sections is a meditation and a comedian of practices, with a handful of spells highlighted to change the narrator rather than changing them together in a recipe book format. There are nearly 500 bits of folklore gathered from all over North America and prepared throughout this tome. In some ways, I am hoping that picking up this book will be like unearthing a box of buried at the crossroads for you, finding it stuffed full of folklore odds and ends. Like butts? That's weird. Verbatim of treasure troves of witchery. Each little piece will tell you something about magic, and you will put together your own picture of folkloric witchcraft here and now. Through seeing the stories, beliefs, rituals, languages, and artifacts that exist here, I am hoping you will come to appreciate what rich treasure we have magical legacy in North America. That being said, I also believe that witchcraft is best understood not only as a practice, but through practice. That don't make sense. And so I have included a series of potential folk magical experience along the way for you, the reader, to try, if you wish. I am immensely fond of what folk magical author Aidan Watcher calls dirty sorcery. I know what dirty sorcery is. That's stuff to get you laid. I think, you know what? Hold on. I think I got something for it.
Hot sex for your pleasure, set it off, liquid treasures.
That's what I'm talking about. Some magical hot sex. Anyways, I also include a section of witchcraft, each chapter entitled The Work, that focuses on more reflective experiments in witchcraft, those that are designed to help you observe and integrate folk magic around you into your life, or discover where witchcraft is tucked away in the world you already inhabit. Bum, bum, bum. Additionally, I see value in both history and folklore, especially intertwined together. In particular, I want to make sure that I put human face on what I can feel like somewhat abstract magical concepts. And I want to honor those witches and magical workers who have laid all the groundwork for me to build up on. To that end, I have also included a series of occasional sections titled Singing Bones, after a folkloric motive of bones that reveal secrets. These sections will be short biographies or sketches of the lives of particular folk magicians, healers, seers, and witches that resurrect them, even if only for a moment. In the minds of those who can read them, some are much historical, others less, and still others largely the creations of folkloric fictions. But in gathering this little coven, I have selected 13 because I cannot help myself. I hope to offer some insight into people who have made magic North America for so many years. My selection process was entirely based unscientific. It's the way to go. Science sucks. Well, not really. And there are literally dozens of other figures I could have chosen. But in the end, I hope you, the reader, will meet these bakers' dozens and seek out the many I have omitted. Baker's dozens? Isn't that 14, not 13? That don't make sense. This guy's already putting a hole in his dig. I should also note that each chapter after this one concludes with a short list of 2 to 5 reading suggestions. Advertisement in a book? Crazy. Gotta get back to where I was. Oh, some of the suggestions are collections of folklore, some more experienced oriented, and some are denser scholarly tomes. In all cases, they are simply there as additional roads that you might explore, and the roads into text I have found immensely helpful in my own studies. In this case, I am hoping these readings will like finding new treasure maps, the double balloons, and my already overstuffed chest of folklore goodies, pointing you to the next trove waiting for you to find. The book is not necessarily one you need to read straight through and cover to cover. Once you passed through the rite of naming, you should be able to go to the other sections and chapters as you see fit. As your interests dictates in the second rite, I will explain the concepts of initiation, magical heritage, including the ways which magical knowledge gets transmitted from one generation to the next. The third rite delves into the various types of spells we find in North America, including spells of healing and spells of harm. The fourth rite to the unseen, calling upon the powers of divination for insight and treasure. The fifth rite is how we flight can understand the historical concept of witchcraft. In the sixth rite, I unpacked witch tools, examining the Bible on her bookshelf and peeking through the spice cabinet, as well as a bottle full of pins and other nefarious ingredients buried by her doorstep. The seventh rite examines the relationship between a witch and her allies, including animal companions and various devils. In the eighth rite, I took a counter magical protections of self and a home in the place of North America enchantment. The ninth rite explores the times in which witches do their work. They do. The 10th rite looks at the book itself again, to the types of magical texts and written charms that might be present in a witch's life, as well as earlier colonial concept of the Devil's Book. See, that'd be a cool one to read. Devil's Book, let's go. The devil. Die for the devil.
Die for the devil, die as one.
And what might mean for contemporary practice, which in the 11th rite, I take a look at the relationship between witches and the dead, including what happens when a dead witch won't stay dead. In the 12th and 13th rites, because of course I had to end up with 13 sections and utterly incorrigible, I look into the two sides of the same coin, witchcraft in public. The incredible and powerful response of the popular culture has to witchcraft shaped North America, identifying for centuries, and has become especially acute in the past 100 years or so. Yet at the same time, that attention is allowed for renewed attacks on witchcraft and witches in various forms and surprising number of reasons. Seeing the witch as a glamour figure may do her some good, but it also singles her out as a target. As the final chapters illustrate, my hope is that you can return to this chapter as you might a crossroads guide full of various arrows sign giving you all sorts of potential directions to go. I have only just begun to explore the ways of which is engage in the world around them. The problems they face with practical, if not necessarily logical approaches, using magic as a specialized tool for overcoming barriers, including poverty or injustice, as well as exacting the personal vendettas sometimes. They understand the world to be a wonderful one, not necessarily a good one, but a world inhabited by the uncanny and the awe-inspiring. Witches engage with that wonder, forms bonds with it, and with the world it shows them. Witches go beyond wonder and belief, transforming their ideas into the concrete reality. Through the spells and charms, knotted cords, bones, and skins from animals, and handfuls of gathered plants, they acquire their power and knowledge through the struggle and effort, often developing it over a lifetime and passing it on to others sometime before they die. They do magic, cast spells, deal with curses, provide blessings, bewitch guns and cattle, finding missing animals, brew love potions, get blamed when things go wrong, sometimes because they did indeed have something to do with it, transform into animals, suffer for their work, and often pay a very high price for the magic they do. The life of a New World witch, then, is one of action. Witches do work, witches solve problems, witches learn and grow, witches make things, witches talk to things that others won't talk to. Witches see the world differently, and it changes them. Then, they change the world. Delicious. Anyways, first right naming, or defining the witches in a sampler of the magical practices found heroin. Ordinary people had more sympathy for the idea of organizing in the occult sciences. Many of the almanacs that every household used to contain bits and pieces of astrology. Some people practiced magic to defend themselves from witchcraft, and some consulted fortune tellers. Now, war broke out between magic and religion, in part because the clergy were attracted to the occult ideas and that they wrote most of the almanacs, and in their response to the wonder, they relied on older lore such as laymen. Okay guys, that was chapter 1. The next chapter will be chapter 2, Are You a Good Witch? Defining and categorizing the New World Witchery. But that concludes today's episode. We've went through chapter 1. I hope everybody's learned as much as I have. And if there's any witches out there that have any comments or have done spells, please comment. Tell us your story. I would be more than happy to read them. And I would do so on the next episode. Given that we get any comments, because I'm pretty sure it's just me. But anyways, you guys have a great night. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. This has been a Cebcasso Publication.